Kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1841. Get to cross that one off. It's an explosion of information. So last night when I was on the show, I had this little mini epiphany. Now, you've been following, this week I've been talking about the DNA matches and how I've started working on these 2 DNA matches that put us somewhere between 5th to 8th cousin. Yep, they're a little far away, but, you know, why not? Because I was looking at the name and I thought, well, it kind of sounds familiar, but I can't find it in my tree. And so I've been researching these 2 different family trees and made my little micro tree. And last night I was on the show, I was like, well, hang on. Do these two kind of come along on the same tree? So where is the common link for these 2? Because I've got a DNA match with one that has Italian descent in it, and then I have a DNA match over here for somebody who is well, I haven't figured it out yet, but one definitely Italian, because half of his parental side is Italian. His maternal side is not. And so I was sort of like, well, hang on. These guys have got some of the same people in the thing. So where is their common denominator? So I found their common grandparents and went, okay, this is where I need to concentrate. And then I suddenly had another thought. If I go into Ancestry DNA and go to where the matches are, and I pull up this one for the DNA match, and when you go into there, you can see who is the common ancestor if they can figure it out. In both cases, no, they couldn't figure that out. So then I went to who do they share with me? Because they've got a little button, they've got a button there that's got where you can look at the tree if they have a tree online. Then the next button is ethnicity, so you can compare the ethnicity between the 2 of you. And then the third button is shared connections or shared matches. So I went to shared matches on the Italian one and got a list of shared matches with him, and it included the other person the woman that I'm looking for, who is also a 5th to 8th cousin. Actually, I think she's more a 4th cousin. I can't remember right now. There was just so much information coming in. And so I looked at that. So then I went over to hers and had a look to see who her shared matches were. And they had a lot that were in common with each other. So I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. So then I started analyzing their shared the ones that they share with me, the same names are coming up. And I found this one. And I thought, I know that name. Why do I know that name? I went and had a look at my tree. It's not in my tree. And I thought, why do I know that name? I have come across this name before. And so, in fact, when I came across this name, we actually chatted backwards and forwards in a message through Ancestry. So that's how I knew that name. And so I went and had a look, and it showed, and she's got over 3,000 people in her tree. I have a whole bunch more than that. I have like over 3 times of that. And so I started looking at her tree, and I found out that she is possibly, because I have to prove the connections, she is possibly my 3rd cousin twice removed, half 3rd cousin twice removed. And you're going, how can you have a half 3rd cousin? So this is how it works. Where's I need my diagram. Yeah, half 3rd cousin twice removed. So how it works is that my 4th great-grandfather had 2 wives. Wife number 1, oh shoot, I totally forgot. Wife number 1 wife number 1 and my 4th great-grandfather and his first wife were parents to my 3rd great-grandfather. Then he goes and gets remarried again. I'm still trying to figure out what happened to the first wife, but then he goes and gets remarried again. And his second wife and him are hang on, that doesn't work. Hang on. I got to figure out the link here. Hang on. And so then they are parents to my 3rd great aunt, who is actually my half great aunt, because there's 2 different mothers involved. So you've got my 3rd great grandfather James, and then his half sister Margaret, and that Margaret is where the half third cousin twice removed comes in. So did that explain everything? Probably not. So my third great grandfather is James, and James is the son of my fourth great grandfather and his first wife. Margaret, his half sister, is the daughter of my fourth great grandfather and his second wife. So we only have one great grandparent in common. Normally, when you're talking cousins and removal and stuff, there's usually two grandparents that you have in common. In this case, no, we only have one grandparent in common, and it's my fourth great grandfather and her. Hang on, I got to work this out. That's her parents, her grandparents, her second great grandfather, and my fourth great grandfather was the same person. That is how you get a half third cousin twice removed. So I just have to prove it. So far, it's working. The only issue I have is, like, I've proved the rest of the tree. I've proved from her all the way back to Margaret. The only problem with Margaret is that I can't find her birth record or her baptism record, and it was in Ireland. So I do have an Irish site that I can go to and check the records and things. And it's all on my paternal side. Now, this half-third cousin twice removed, when I look at her shared matches, her shared DNA matches and my shared DNA matches, we have these two people in common that I have been searching for all week. And so it's like, this is really cool, because now it is narrowed down where that connection is going to pop in for these other people. So now I know that I don't need to worry about this side of the family tree, and I just need to concentrate on this particular branch of the tree that's going to hopefully lead me to wherever they are. Because if she's got them in common with me, then I know which branch of the tree is going to come off, because it's going to be one that's in common with us. So it could be one of the three coming off one of the three legs that we have. So I'm thinking, maybe because we're both on the same thing, maybe it goes back to Hugh, who is my fourth great grandfather. Maybe it goes back to him and one of his children, is where the common link could be to these fifth to eighth cousins that have a lot of people in common together with me and this other woman. So it's kind of exciting. And I just and it was like this big, it was just a little epiphany yesterday. I was like, why am I not looking at their tree to see where their common ancestors are? So I actually printed off a pedigree chart, a blank pedigree chart. And this is what a blank pedigree chart looks like. Okay. You have the main person is here at number 1. Then you have their parents. And then you go to grandparents and then great grandparents. So there's actually 15 people in total on this sheet. Okay. So if you were doing it, your name would go here. Then your dad, your mum, dad's always at the top, mother's always at the bottom. Then you've got grandfather, grandmother, grandfather, grandmother, father's side, mother's side, and then you've got the great grandparents. So I did this up and found out where they connected. And I was like, yes. And then I was like, okay, and then the next step was, let's go see what shared connections I have in common with the guy from Italy, the guy that's half Italian, and the girl that's not, because they came up on, and then finding out that they have a lot of the same ones that are very familiar, which confirms my thing of where they joined together and where their tree joins together. And I think, what was it? They were like second or third cousins twice removed, or second or cousins twice removed, I think, from each other. So I was like, cool. Now let's go to where we have the ones in common. And I actually went in and typed in her last name. And I came up with a whole bunch more. And I'm like, there's a whole bunch of them. I don't have any of that last name in my tree, except in my little micro tree, but not in my main tree. And I'm like, And then it came up with an alternative spelling. So Darling was the name I was looking for. And then there was Darlington. And the Darlington is all on my maternal side, and the Darling is all on my paternal side. I was like, oh my gosh, this is getting, I think that's how it worked out. Hang on. Nope. I've lost my pieces of paper. I had one that I had printed out that actually had a spreadsheet on it. I went and put them all on the spreadsheet so I could keep the notes. Oh, there's my spreadsheet. Yeah, so all the Darlingtons are on my mum's side of the family. All the Darlings are on my dad's side of the family. And we had, so I went through each of the ones that were in common, and that's how I found the one that's my half-third cousin twice removed. And so when I looked at her matches and my matches, there were a lot of these people that were on, a lot of the same people on there. So now I've narrowed down, and the Italian guy was on there along with the Darling girl. And so now I've narrowed down that we're somehow involved in this branch of the tree that goes back to Hugh. And Hugh was born in Ireland and had 2 wives. So It's just sort of like this information just kept coming and coming and coming and coming, and I'm trying to keep it all sorted and everything else. And I was sort of like, okay, I had my timer on. I spent my hour looking this morning. Now it's time to go do some work. And I was like, but I really want to get back into it. Nope, we have to do our work. We've got to get our work assignments done for the day because I had worked out what I needed to do that day for a client. And then I had the help chat. And then it's like, okay, as soon as we get off the help chat, we're back into it again. And then I looked up and it was like 5 minutes to coming on air. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to stop. So like I want to go back to it. But first, before I get back into that again, I've got to take Zeffy for a walk. So I'm actually using this forward momentum with what's happening with the genealogy and expanding my tree and matching up, because I love matching up the DNA matches. If people are related to me, I want to know how. And then there's ones that really trick you, and I'm sort of like, okay, I need to find out more information. Can I find their obituary? Because obituaries are really cool because in a lot of obituaries, not all of them, but in a lot of them, they will put survived by. And if they're survived by a spouse, the spouse's name will be there. If they're survived by children, the children's names will be there. In some cases, they put by their, 3 daughters and 2 sons. And I'm like, that's no help to me. I want names. I need some names. But most of them are mostly helpful because it will have there, they got, some of them will even put that they were born on the date where they were born, who their parents were, and it will have, late of, or the daughter of the late blah, 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 and have the parents' name there, including the mother's maiden name. And I'm like, yes, these are little gems that come along when you're researching genealogy. These are the sort of things that we like because the information is right there in front of us, and it's written by somebody who knows. It's usually written by a family member. So you can pretty much guarantee that the information is pretty accurate, but it does give you a place that you can now go research to make those links. You've now got names that you can go and research instead of going, oh my gosh, okay, well, I've got them on the 1930 census. Is that their kids? Well, now I've got their obituary over here and I can see their kids' names here. And there's all their kids' names listed there on the 1930 census. Okay, we may be on the same track. We might be on the right track here. So let's go see if we can get some more information about these people. And so you start digging and digging and digging until you finally get to the point where it's sort of like you've done what you can in digging. You've confirmed everything. So I am still in the process of confirming my connection to my half-thread cousin twice removed, because once that's established, then I can start looking at the other ones and figuring out, all right, where in my tree for my 4th great-grandfather do you guys fit? I might actually have to go back to his parents or her parents. No, it'd have to be through his family because that's where our common bloodline is. So yeah, so even when you're looking at things, I'll go over here and I'll do the mother's side of the family. But hang on, the connection's on the father's side of the family. So why are you even looking at the mother's side of the family? You've got to go look at the father's side of the family. So you've got to remember things like that. So like, okay, let me go see if I can find other information about this. And sometimes you've got to go sideways to get that other information that you need to fill in the gaps over here. And that happens a lot. So yes, I've been busy digging away and finding death certificates and marriage certificates and birth records and parish records, because some of them are in Ireland, so you got to go through the parish records, and census reports, and just trying to confirm this lineage, and then finding obituaries and finding in the obituaries that they're actually listing their siblings' names as well as their children's names. And so you're starting to get this chain through the whole thing. And it helps when people have a weird name as well. So, because there is one that I've come across and I'm like, okay, I'm showing he got married to this person and they had all these kids. But this one in his obituary, and he was like one of the youngest ones, turns around and said his mother has this name, which doesn't match his wife's name. And then I go and I'm looking, and this was really interesting. And so then I'm looking through the city directory. The city directories are a goldmine of information, especially back in the 1950s and things, because they would list it by the husband's name, and in parentheses they would have the wife's name. And if the woman was a widow, it would have, one of them had Anne, widow of Haram, and then it had the date that Haram died, because it was like December. This was the 1950 directory, and he died in December of 1949. And no relation whatsoever, but it was listed there. I thought, well, that's interesting. And other times they'll put widow, and then in parentheses they'll put the name of the husband. But this one they had that she was the widow of Hiram, and Hiram had died in December of, they actually had the actual date there for December of 1949. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. But so in the 1950 directory, I'm like looking up this last name, and I come across the last name, and I find this guy that I'm looking for, and in parentheses, it has the name that is listed in the youngest son's obituary as his mother, and it shows that she is married to this guy, and they are living at this particular address. Well, I'm going back through census reports to see, where does this woman come in? Where does she appear? I found the census report before she supposedly got married to this guy. Her address is the same address that they're living at in the directory. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And when I looked at her father's information, it turned around and said that he owned this, what did it have for his occupation? That he was like a truck driver or something. Well, it so happens that this address, it turns around and back in the 1950 or the 1940 census? In the 1950 census, it had that this guy was the proprietor of a trucking company, and it had his wife listed there. It matches up with what's in the directory. And I'm like, matching it up with the 1940 census. And I'm just like, these guys are all living literally in each other's back pockets, because siblings are living at the same address. His siblings are all living at the same address with their wives all listed. And so I'm like, yeah, they got, and I'm like, but it says that they're living there, that they work at the trucking company, and right next door, in the house next door, which is, I'm guessing, one big building at the time, only because of the way the address is done. So and when I'm looking on the census report, that other house number doesn't exist on the census reports, because they start at 357 is the number that they're in. And 351 is where the ice business is. So they have an ice business and the trucking business. And in the ice business, which was at 351, it's not listed on the census reports at all. But the people who are listed in the directory at being at 351 are actually on the census report are listed as being at 357. So I'm just like, we've got a whole family that's just moved into this area. So it's really cool when you find information like that. So directories, you might see a city directory and go, oh, I got to go through. Go check them out anyway, because they'll have their list of the names, and then they have where they live. If it has an H in front of the number, it means that they are a homeowner. If it has an R, it means they're renting, which helps when you're looking through directories. It's not the same in all directories, but in these ones around in the 1800s, it was. It was very much that way. So it was kind of cool going through and finding this whole family there. Like I had the main guy that I was looking for with his second wife, because definitely a different name from the first wife. And I'd already found his marriage certificate to the first wife, which had it spelled differently. And then and had a different last name to what the second wife had. And then I had this obituary that says that the second wife was his mother. And I'm like, well, and then I have found somebody's tree that said that they got married in 1843. And I'm like, okay, so that means that any kids he had after 1843 were all the second wife's kids, including a set of twins. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, because it had, and so I'm now going back trying to find birth records and Social Security. No, Social Security wasn't around then, but finding birth records, finding death records, finding obituaries that will list all of this stuff out for me. And it's like a little gold mine. But I tell you, this information has just been flowing. It has been so much fun. And every time I think of another thing, I'm writing it on a Post-it note and sticking it over here to go check this. Like I'm from the middle of searching for something. I'm like, oh, I need to do this. Write it on a Post-it note, stick it over here. So I have a stack of Post-it notes over here to go check out other things as well. So this search is becoming very interesting, and there's a lot of activity going on. But especially finding this one person who I've actually exchanged messages with, that her and I have in common, this guy who's half Italian, and this other person, I now know that I'm on the right path. And because she also has these people in common as well, showing up as a DNA match on her list. So when I turn and say shared connections or shared DNA matches, they're showing up on that list. I'm sort of like, okay, so now we know which branch of the tree they came on. We just have to figure out how they connect to that tree. So there's lots of really cool stuff going on, and I have to use it as reward. And right now it's sort of like, yeah, but I want to go search. It's like, no, you have work to do. Go do the work, then you get the reward. So yes, I got the work done got my reward, got my work finished, got my reward. And now I have to finish this off, go take Zephyr for a walk, and then I can come back. But I'm going to have to limit myself because I have been known at times, and I haven't done this for a while. It's been a while since I've done this, but, staying up to 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning because I'm just following. You just don't want to break. You don't want to break the chain, but I'm forcing myself to break the chain, take notes of where I'm at. So when I come back to it, I know exactly where I am. And I've got my little stack of Post-it notes of other things to go and to look for. I need to find the obituary for this person, the obituary for that person. We've even been looking through newspapers for obituaries and wedding announcements and things like that as well, because sometimes you don't get them as clearly as other places. But it's been an interesting journey, and I'm loving it, having a blast with it. So that's our update on my possible 5th to 8th cousin. They might even be closer. We don't know. But if they're 5th cousins, then that would put them on the same level as me, which means that this person that I've been exchanging messages, I've got to go back and have a look through my messages, that I've been exchanging messages with, who is my 3rd cousin, half 3rd cousin twice removed. That means that she could possibly be the same to these other 2 people as well. So it's kind of exciting. I'm going to keep you posted. I'll let you know when I solve that little mystery with those 2 people, especially the half Italian one. Yeah, his family's all Italian. His dad's side of the family, completely Italian. His mother's side of the family, I think, may end up having some Irish blood in there. But we'll see. The Irish and the Italians. There you go. There's a good mix for you. Anyway, that's it. I'm out of here. Go out and have a super fantastic. Oh, today's also Thankful Thursday too. So let us know in the comments what you're most grateful for today. I'm just grateful for the little pieces that are just dripping. And I'm getting excited about this and absolutely loving it. And I got to help a friend today who's planning on going down to New Zealand. So I got to talk with her today and give her some ideas and things like that too. So that was also good. That was in the middle of my that was in the middle of my little time I'd allowed myself this morning before I actually started work. So, but that's okay because I went back and finished off I had like 15 minutes left out of my time. So stuck to that. Got my other work done. So anyway, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening.